Welcome to Year Zero Vlogs. In 1 year, I will be leaving academia and start a new life as a consultant, helping others to teach better. Join me on Memory Lane.
A lot of the things that can be done here, I am not allowed to do. And in this video I tell you why this is and how I still live a full life. I have a disability. It's a chronic illness or disease if you want, and it is in between hidden and visible, because if you want to see, you see, but I also could hide it if I wanted. So what it is lymphedema. You can see that the width of my legs is different. So you could spot it easily that something is different than for a normal person. I make this video because I'm working in academia. I worked there for 25 years since I started my studies, and I decided I want to share that I have lymphedema from childhood on. The lots of things that I'm forbidden to do, that I can't do for health reasons, and how this all fitted into an academic career with everything that needs to be considered. Maybe this is helpful for some of you out there. And remember, every illness and condition is very specific to the person carrying it. So what I'm saying is true for what I experienced, and it's my unique health journey, and it can be very, very different for many other people. So I will just share with you how this disease, chronic condition, however you want to call it, affected my whole life since I was a child, age 5. I could jump now, but I can't. I'm not allowed to. Because the danger when jumping is that I would bend my ankle, and this is something that I absolutely avoided my whole life. First, a little bit of an introduction. What is lymphedema? For those of you who don't know that, it's a malfunction or underperformance of the lymphatic vessel system of your body. You have the blood system and then you have the lymphatic system, and it is a pumping mechanism basically. And whenever there is something wrong in the lymphatic vessels, you have lymph nodes, for example underarm lymph nodes, and here. When there is something wrong, when the lymphatic system cannot function 100%, then you will notice that in liquid accumulation in the extremities or wherever the lymph system doesn't work properly. So for me this is in my leg, or more in my foot area, the ankle upward, and I have a quite severe form of lymphedema. You wouldn't think it because there are stages. Remember, I have this since I was a child, and I will tell you why I look like this and why I don't have these massive legs that are an absolute burden and horrible for the people and the patients that suffer like that. I was really lucky that I have primary lymphedema that was right away correctly diagnosed. How did that even happen? When I was a child, everything was normal. I had normal appearance, no issues with swelling or anything. I had a normal childhood until I was about 5 years old. And then in some holidays, there was a trolley running over my foot, and the foot was swelling up. And now the curious thing was that the swelling didn't go away. And then immediately when they came back, they went to my children's doctor. And I was very lucky also here because we were having private insurance. So we had a different treatment. That's how it is, and that's why I say this also. I was very lucky. So my children's doctor was also a man that was very interested in keeping up with the literature and knowing what is out there, what is discovered, and what types of diseases, conditions, syndromes there are with kids. And he was very, very eager to really help the patients. And so I was very lucky that this man knew about lymphedema. And he knew about lymphedema in children. He knew about the fact that there is something called primary lymphedema. Back to a little bit of introduction background. Primary lymphedema, what I have, is mostly a genetic condition. A lot of people don't know what the underlying genetic cause is. You also don't have to know it. It is not necessarily inherited. It's not 100% clear what's really happening for a lot of people. Secondary lymphedema is what the majority of lymphedema patients have, and that's where you know it from. That's also where ambassadors play a lot of roles in those lymphatic networks for patient information and so on. So secondary lymphedema is, for example, when women have breast cancer and then they have a removal of their breasts, also the lymph vessels and lymph nodes underarm will be removed because they are often affected by the cancer, and if there is metastasis they have to be taken out during surgery. And this then leads to a malfunction and underperformance of the lymphatic system of your arm, and that's why it is very often a secondary cause that after breast surgery you have gotten rid of the cancer, but you will develop a secondary lymphedema manifesting in a very thick arm where you have your water all swelling up your arm and your fingers. And you can have this on one side and two sides, and also for the primary lymphedema, what I have it only on one side, but there are inherited conditions where children have it on both sides. So both legs are thick, for example. There are really a variety of different versions of lymphedema and etiologies also, and genetic causes and then consequences. So we're not diving into that. I want to stick with my story. So when I was 5 years old, my children's doctor realized the trolley running over my foot that led to the swelling has probably caused something that might be lymphedema. So long story short, we had a direct transition to the one of the two special clinics at the time in Germany. The main clinic was in Switzerland, and there were two clinics, with the one that I was directed to being the place to be for patients at the time. I directly had access to the best doctor, I would say, for that condition. I was very unique as a patient because in this clinic there were these huge people with their very, very large legs and large arms. There were a variety of patients with huge bodies, and I was this child. I was the only child there. I was very slim and I had something on my foot, and I was hospitalized in this clinic together with my mother, and we went there for diagnosis and for the first round of treatment. So I was in this clinic, child of 5 years old, and what they do immediately is to assess everything. You get your body assessed, the weight, the size, fitness level, and then they do the investigations, which is mainly observation of how everything looks and this pressure test, and there are certain signs how your toes will develop over time and so on. But it was pretty clear right from the beginning and from the first consultation that yes, indeed, I had acquired a primary lymphedema. So what does this even mean? It's a shock when a mother sits there, my mother, and you have this child, I'm an only child, and then the mother is told in presence of the child that this will be forever, there is no cure, it can only get worse, and basically everything you do can make it worse in a normal life. The life from now on will change completely, but then it's manageable and you can live very well with it. If you get such an information with these words, you don't know what this means. Don't get me wrong, it's not cancer, it's not a death sentence. Nevertheless, if you are a mother with a 5-year-old child and you get such a diagnosis for your otherwise healthy child, you can imagine that it was really tough on my mom. So now what came next? We stayed there for 8 weeks and I got immediately intervention. What is intervention? It is that there are bandages that are very, very, very tight, and that they put a pressure in the direction of where the lymphatic liquid is supposed to flow. So I had bandages all over my leg, and they do it up to here, and then you have to walk with that, because walking and movement of the body also leads to pumping of the lymphatic system, and this is very good. And during the time there, then also we got the prescriptions for our socks. I had to wear from now on compression socks, and these help to pump up the liquid and counteract. So this was the first part. I was there in the clinic. We knew what's going on. We had the right diagnosis. We got immediate treatment. We got immediate intervention. And I got my compression garments, and I got all the information, my mom at the time, with how to behave from now on and how to live our life and what to do. In the beginning, this involved once a year going there. Every year that was measured completely. Again, it's very important that the body mass index is low and kept low. The very first time when I had to wear the compression sock, it felt tight and it felt like something foreign. It is a bit tight, so now imagine you wear that and that whole year around, in summer and in winter, and you sweat in it, and it is tough and you cannot bend your ankle like other people do and so on. So it takes a little bit of adjustment, but again, I was very lucky that I got this condition as a child, because I cannot imagine how difficult it must be if you develop secondary lymphedema after a very, very hard diagnosis like cancer, and then you survive the cancer, but you have this other disease which is visible and which affects your life like every day in a very crass way. So preparing this video, I thought about what really I wasn't supposed to do and how this affected my life, and I was a bit shocked that it's that much because for me this is habit and this is how I live my life. And if you're from a young age, like not allowed to do something, you're just not doing it. And also, it's not about not being allowed to do it. It's just too dangerous, which is why it's obvious that you will not do it. So there is no discussion. It was never a discussion for me that I don't want to follow the rules to stay healthy, because there was only one option. And that was that the edema would get worse. That was the only option. A year after that diagnosis, I started going to school. You can watch my videos about kindergarten and elementary school. And kids are very, very transparent, I think. They see something new, like for example, a weird colored sock on a person, and they point with the finger and they ask, "What is that? What do you have there?" And yeah, then you say, "I have a thick foot, I have lymphedema," and that's it. The issue here that came with my condition is that it didn't stop there. So it's not like I could just say, well, I have this and this is it. It affected everyone around me also. It affected everyone around me because from now on, I didn't have to only follow the rules for myself. Also, my surrounding had to follow certain rules. And that is, I wasn't supposed to get any hematoma. I wasn't supposed to get any insect bites. I could not injure myself in any form or way because every trauma to the skin on any part of my body could worsen my edema. In other words, if some other kid kicked me on the left foot, I could have a trauma there, and it could be that worse that I develop lymphedema there, because the etiology of primary lymphedema is oftentimes unknown, and that's also with my case. So it is not known what really is wrong, and I also never went down this rabbit hole because it's unnecessary, at least for my life and my life's decisions. So it affected everyone around me. And as this started with elementary school, it was a good time point because I was not used to other children treating me the same as they would treat any child. I learned very early on that I rather tell everyone right away, "I am Natalie, I have lymphedema, and you are not allowed to kick me, please, because I can get very sick from it. So please don't kick me, please don't hit me, please be gentle with me." So everyone knew that, and I never had an accident. The majority of kids in my social circle, so at school, friends and the environment, they picked it up very, very quickly. Yes, you cannot have this rough fun with her. You have to be careful because she's sick. And it worked out. So next we transitioned into high school. And there things got very interesting when we talk about sports. I could have a doctor's note that freed me from the mandatory sports that you have in school. So how is it called? Physical education. So due to my condition, it was clear that anything that has to do with sport done by myself or in groups where others could injure me is too dangerous, because remember, it can only get worse, there is no cure. And any trauma on the skin will potentially make it worse. So I had a option to always opt out of physical education in school, in high school. The point is, I didn't want to. I had always urge is the wrong word, but we were a rather small class. I knew classmates from kindergarten and elementary school. I wanted to be a part of that. I was anyhow missing out on a lot of things, and it was weird sometimes because of the lymphedema, and it was annoying. So I wanted to participate. So we tried to find a way, and we found a way, and this is amazing. And I want to shout out to all of my classmates in high school that made this possible, because without you, I could not have had all of these experiences. So how did it work? First of all, the most amazing sports teacher of all time. I think we all felt safe in class, and I could have sports together with them. The rule was Natalie is not to be hit or targeted. They all knew why this was. They all knew that it's very serious and that it's not for fun. That also when it came to indoor activities, gymnastics and so on, they took helping me and securing me very seriously. No one ever made fun and just let go or something like that. It was very important for me that I could trust and rely so much on my classmates, and in retrospective this was such a huge present and I'm forever grateful. But what I also have in my mind, at least that's my memory, so correct me if I'm wrong there, but I was also a little bit of an asset, right? Because, for example, I was even participating in playing hockey with a stick. How did that work? Because that's very, very dangerous. And yes, it was dangerous, but I had these protectors for my shins and my feet. And again, no one was allowed to hit me with a stick. So the moment I had the ball, I had a little bit of an advantage because they didn't went so hard on me. So playing in a team with 2-3 other girls, we could really strategically run out others. And yeah, it was just fantastic because I was there and I made some goals for the team, and yeah, I have only good memories. One more memory that I want to share with you is participating in the yearly sports event that is happening in German schools, and that's Bundesjugendspiele. It's a sports event where you have a catalog of things that you do, track and field, and every student has to do it, and then there are points, depending on how good you are, and then you get these certificates, Siegerurkunde, Ehrenurkunde. And I never got an Ehrenurkunde, so the best certificate, but I managed, with my condition, to get a Siegerurkunde. How did I do it? I was not allowed to jump, so far jump was not an option, and it's mandatory, so I got a strike, so it was 0 points. I didn't collect any points for far jump because when you jump, you can kink your ankle and bend your ankle, so it's much too dangerous. Anything that involves jumping is not allowed for me. So I had to get points somewhere else, and I was really bad in throwing balls, but I did it, so I got mediocre points for throwing a ball. How did I get a certificate? I got it with 800-meter track run. 400 meters competitive running, you have to have the fast muscles. I didn't have those. For very long competitive running, you have to have the endurance muscles. I didn't have those. 800 meters, that's 2 laps around. That's just a mind game. You win 800 meters as a normal, physically mediocre person, just in your head. And that's how I could win. There were some girls in my class that were really, really strong in running. And one was extremely strong. She was so strong that she was competing with the 100-meter boys cohort because she was so strong. So imagine her final run was super hard. So what I had to do, we both led the cohort during 800 meters and we paced the speed. However, I had to start my final push much, much earlier than she could do it because she had this power for a short 100-meter fast run push, and I had no chance to win against her. So I had to start the speeding up much, much earlier. So after the first lap, 400 meters, that was for me when it started that I increased pace and pace and pace and pace and pace. And maybe some of you also have seen the film GATTACA, where 2 brothers compete with each other, and one he's not really able to compete because he's physically not as strong as the genetically perfect brother. And one day he beats him. The weak brother beats the strong brother, and the strong brother asks, "How did you do it?" And the weak brother says, "I just never left any energy for the way back." And that's a bit how I did it also. So strategy first, knowing my competition, and then giving it all. Because I knew I would be picked up by car by my mom after that, and that's how I got my points, and that's how I got my Siegerurkunde. I was very proud of that. So I'm not telling this to brag. I'm telling this because there are things that make life difficult, different reasons for that, and still there are always chances to minimize risk and to take calculated risks. And that was one for me. Partaking in group sports where all of the people that are involved are 100% not only aware, but they feel responsible, and they never really risk hurting me. And then second, also work with your strength. And it can be that you're not having a bodily strength, but the mind can be very strong. And that's very pleasing and also very helpful in life. Yeah, and then after the high school period, I went out in the world, and as you all know by now, when you've seen the Year Zero vlog, I went to a city, a big city, and I studied biochemistry. So living alone and being in completely new social circles where people don't know my condition and they just treat me as a normal person was nice for once, but also I noticed immediately this is risky, this is dangerous, because there are some things that an ordinary person doesn't think about. For example, sharing a shower. I could not go bare feet in a shower because the risk is too high that there is, for example, some infection. Socializing with other people always was very difficult because it didn't only affect hygiene and not using the same shower without precaution. It was also, I couldn't sit on the grass. There could be ants or bees. I never could go bare feet. I had to plan where to go and what to do because of the dangers that might occur. So a lot of planning and a lot of being careful was involved, and it's also clear that some of these limitations, they can be very annoying to other people. I noticed also here early on that it's the best way to protect myself, to let everyone know. But already in university I noticed that people say yes, okay, you have that, fine, and they basically didn't care what I did and accepted things. But the older you get, and I noticed this now 25 years later, now that I'm 44, the older one gets, the less reflective the environment is, and it's also harder for yourself because you don't want to always be the victim, right? I was never considering myself a patient or a victim. I was just Natalie and I had this, and so I took care that nobody was running over my feet, hitting me, that I didn't get hematoma, insect bites, that I was not falling over, that I was not tripping, that I was not being in too close contact with any dangerous animals. So a dog bite could be dangerous, a cat bite could be dangerous. Small children that hit around themselves because they are uncoordinated and they don't know can be dangerous. When you cycle, you could fall off the bike, so you don't do anything stupid while you're cycling. So everything is possible, but just in a controlled manner. And now during my studies, we went out a lot of partying, for example. And for sure, if you're in a crowded club, everyone knows that you can be bumped into, and wearing high shoes, not an option. Well, I still did find some that did not injure, that were wide enough, and the movement compensated, and it was okay how I did all of that. So I didn't miss out on anything. And I also was always wearing my sock, right? So imagine there is a girl, one side, well, she wears a sock. People, they might look, some stare, there are always some idiots around, but most of the people didn't care so much. The problem was rather that this not caring also led then in the next years when I went into my PhD and then further senior PhD and then postdoc and went abroad. Until nowadays, people stop asking. I'm almost shocked when someone says, "Oh, it's your leg seems bigger. What do you have there? Did you injure your foot?" That happened in a workshop a few years ago, and the coach she asked directly, and I love that when people ask directly, because then I can say and then the question is kind of answered. But this is very rarely happening. You see how people dare, but they don't ask. With them not asking, it's also difficult to explain what consequence it has for me in the social interaction. And I stopped doing that. I stopped explaining myself why I don't go for picnics, or why I don't sit on a meadow, why I cannot go bare feet, why I'm not coming along for paddling along a river, why I'm not going overnight in a tent, why I'm not sharing any random hotel rooms or hostels with shower situations that you don't know what it is all about, that I'm not going to areas or in hotels where I'm not sure how the insect situation is, and so on and so forth. I stopped sharing all of that, so people just see the result, what I do and what I don't. That's okay for me, I live with it, but it might come across as a little weird. That I admit. I would consider myself sometimes a little weird. 80% of the weirdness is connected to me having lymphedema and me protecting myself. Let's talk about food and being slim. When I was 6, my doctor told me there's no cure, you will have this forever, and it can only get worse. When I was 16, my doctor, I call him my foot doctor, he had my feet in his hand when he was observing the statues in our regular control session. once a year. And he said, now you're almost an adult, Natalie. So for your feet, remember this, it will never go away. It can only get worse. So it's very important. You will never get fat. You will always stay slim, number one. And number two, now you're old enough, pick out yourself a boyfriend and a man and a husband that likes to touch your feet and that massages your feet. And he was totally right. By the way, I did that. And it's very helpful because my husband can do the manual lymphatic drainage if I need to have that. So what about staying slim? It sounds harsh, don't get fat. And I know that a lot of lymph patients and lymphedema patients are stigmatized because of their body shape and form. Their body shape and form, the swelling, that's the disease condition. However, it's also correct that when you're obese, or if I would be obese, the lymphedema would be much, much worse. And I'm eating this on purpose now by talking about it because I was never on a special diet. Again, I'm so lucky that I got this as a child because I knew from childhood on, it's just not an option to gain weight. I have no obesity issues in my family. My grandmother gained a little bit of weight when she was immobile due to health conditions in older age. But we have a normal body mass index, I would say. However, now that I'm 44, I also noticed that, of course, I can eat sweets and I have a balanced diet. I just eat everything in balance and I don't overeat. I had phases in my life where I indulged in sweets or cocktails or something, and then I gained a little bit of weight. And I noticed this immediately because the weight I carry around translates into how my foot swells and how it feels and how everything behaves. The swelling is getting more when you gain weight. So now that I'm older and hormones also play a big role, obviously I noticed that I have to be more careful. So it's not like, yeah, if I eat chocolate or lunch, it doesn't matter. It will make a difference if I have too much of sugar and fat intake. I'm a slim person and I'm not on a diet, but I knew that if I would lose 2 kilos, just this typical area here, my foot would feel much better, especially in summer. Do I force myself now to lose weight and am I on a health trip? No. I'm very realistic with what's possible and I try to be healthy with my food. I'm very lucky that my husband cooks every day. I do not consume a lot of drinks with high sugar. Is this much more healthy if you use zero sugar? Probably not in the bigger picture, but what I want to say is that yes, I'm aware of what I could do better with my nutrition, but I'm also living a balanced life and I'm not forcing myself into dogmatic things that I know I cannot uphold myself to. So instead of being unhappy, I try to hold the balance. And this is a difficult topic because now I had the option to go into rehabilitation, was just beginning of COVID, 2019, because due to my hard work in the lab and the stress on my body, I didn't take care enough and I had a 1.5 centimeter bigger circumference as it should be. So I used the chance to be in this clinic where I went to as a child, and in this rehabilitation, for me it was just to get daily manual lymphatic drainage of a professional and having this heavier elastic band treatment so that we actively work against this lymphatic liquid being accumulated there. It was very good at this time point. It helped me a lot. And why am I saying this now? Of course, in the clinic at the same time as me. And that's why it fits to the nutrition and food and drink, sugar, fat discussion here. A lot of people that suffer from lymphedema and that are diagnosed much too late, they have an obesity and weight issue. And this makes things so much harder because you have to lose weight and everybody knows how hard this is. So most people that were there at the same time as I was were on a specific diet. They had a nutritionist, and part of the rehabilitation also, considering some of them have other diseases affected or induced by their obesity, like cardiovascular issues, they had a totally different regimen and plan for the rehabilitation, and their days were very different than mine. And it's a very different situation. That's why I said in the intro, don't take this as an offense if you suffer from lymphedema in a very different way than I do. Why do I make this video and why do I think it's important? It's important because there are a lot of people with hidden disabilities and hidden chronic conditions, and they can be as severe as they are fatal or life-threatening, and they can be as severe that they are affecting the life on so many aspects that no healthy person can understand. That makes this person a little bit weird or socially incompetent because they protect themselves. And there are so many different aspects of chronic illness and disease. There is never a one rule fit all or one suggestion fit all. I just want to say that this shaped me. This shaped how I interacted with people, how I went through my personal academic journey. This chronic condition also decided for me where I would go, many aspects also of traveling and so on and so forth. I picked my places and spots so that I would have good opportunity and good life. So the lab life is very convenient for me because I can decide about the cycles of walking, sitting and standing. I can stand at the bench anytime when I pipe it, and I can sit down, and this is a big advantage. The troubles I have in summer when I have to stand during teaching, but also there I take the freedom and sometimes sit, and so I can adjust very well with the options that I have, which is again a luxury and special to my situation. In conclusion, I can say that I was always aware of my limitations, but I never let those hold me back. I made it work in the boundaries that I had, and luckily I got this as a child, so it wasn't discipline or rules. It all became kind of a habit to look after myself, and that's what my disease also told me and what I took away from it. I make things that are really important to me a habit, and then it's super easy. Like, subscribe and comment, and stay tuned for more Year Zero vlogs.